Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. Today's edition is the Classica San Sebastian, 230 kilometers, about 145 miles in length, and we're talking about 7 categorized climbs on today's Classica San Sebastian because it used to be what was considered a World Cup race back in the day, in my years when I first started racing anyways. This was an important one-day race. Now coming so quickly after the Tour de France, not quite as important as it used to be in years past, but it is still the biggest one-day race in Spain, unless, of course, you're holding the World Championships there. Otherwise, Classica San Sebastian is a big race when you're talking about racing up here in the Basque Country. Remember, they just finished the Tour de France. That started with 3 stages in the Basque Country, so the fans up here are excited to see Remco Evenepoel back in action. If you guys remember right, Remco Evenepoel left the Giro d'Italia after the second individual time trial while wearing the pink jersey and winning both time trials at this year's Giro and left COVID positive. We saw him show up at the Tour of Swiss, had a couple strong rides at the Tour of Swiss, won the individual time trial, but of course there was some attachments with that with the passing of Gino Mader. But Remco Evenepoel's form still looks sharp when he went to the Belgium National Championships, and he is the current road Belgium National Champion. But of course, he is the current road world champion, so we see him in the rainbow jersey. This will be Remco Evenepoel's last day here in the rainbow jersey because, of course, we have the Worlds coming up next week, so he'll be back in his national kit racing for Belgium in next weekend's World Championships. Whether if he comes out of that with another rainbow band jersey is a whole nother story, but at this moment, when the Classica San Sebastian's getting ready to start, Remco Evenepoel says that he would, of course, like to win a third here, but he has time. If he doesn't win today, he has time, of course, because he's still a young kid, so he has time to win some more and equal the record here with 3 victories of the Classica San Sebastian. Now, when the cameras come on, we're about 69 kilometers to go, and we have 6 riders in the front group. 4 riders you want to pay attention to, of course, are Remco Evenepoel. We see Vlasov made it in this front group. Bardet was one of the original guys up there, so he's probably got some tired legs, and you don't have to pay a whole lot of attention to him or Nathan van Hooijdonk, but you got to pay a little attention because there's some tactics that they could be doing right at this moment in the race, but they're not employing those tactics to the way that I would like to see them do it. We see the other guys up there. Alberto Bettiol is in the group, and Pale Bilbao from Bahrain Victorious is the 4th rider you really want to pay attention to. Now, the camera backs up, and we see the Peloton. We see it's Movistar pulling over the top of the 5th categorized climb here at the Classica San Sebastian and down the descent. The gap to the 6 leaders up front, it's not very big. We're talking about 25, 30 seconds early into the cameras coming on here at the Classica. We go back, there's a crash in the Peloton as they're coming down the descent. Simon Guglielmin from Arkea Samsic, he crashes hard. And then we see a little chaos in the Peloton with guys attacking. I didn't like seeing the attacking because we got 4 strong guys in this front group and 2 guys sitting on, Nathan van Hooijdonk and Bardet. Romain Bardet, like I said, with Nathan van Hooijdonk have been in the early group, so they have every right to sit on. When you look at the Peloton split up, I don't know if it was chaos of the riders not riding very intelligent, trying to bring back Remco Evenepoel with 3 guys pulling 100% with him, or if it was the split in the crash there being caused by the Arkea Samsic rider going down. Whatever caused it, there's some knuckleheads back there not working well together, trying to bridge up the Remco Evenepoel. So we see Remco when he drops down to the bottom of the descent there. We're going to see this group of 6. And now Alberto Bettiol, EF Education, is pulling through 100% on the front with Remco Evenepoel. Man, this guy is an absolute knucklehead. When the camera's backed up, after the camera's turned on and then they backed back up to see how Remco Evenepoel made this attack, looked like he went with just a few hundred meters to go on that last climb. And as he went over the top, we saw him go past Julian Bernard from Trek Segafredo. That was one of the original members of the break. So I don't believe Remco Evenepoel did a big attack going up this climb. He just did a little one near the top from what I can tell, and so hasn't spent a whole lot of energy in the legs so far here at the Classica. But when we go down to the bottom and you see EF Education, now Alberto Bettiol pulling on the front, you gotta believe he's a knucklehead. I think I can ask any of the viewers that watch the Butterfly Effect, and if I asked you, do you believe Alberto Bettiol, who is not a climber, should be pulling through with Remco Evenepoel, Pale Bilbao, and Alexander Vlasov from Bora Hansgrohe? You are a complete knucklehead. On top of that, not only is he pulling through, but when he slides off the front, drops to the back, he's having some words with Nathan van Hooijdonk from Jumbo-Visma, who of course has no reason to pull because he has Thies Benoot in the group behind. So we look at Alberto Bettiol having those words with Nathan. Nathan, of course, is probably saying, man, I'm not going to pull. I'm not a complete knucklehead. I'm just a little knucklehead. So we see there EF Education, Alberto Bettiol slots in front of the Jumbo-Visma rider, and he'll keep rotating through with the 3 real climbers here at the Classica San Sebastian coming into the late final. Now we go back to the Peloton. What's happening back there? Movistar, we're pulling on the front, doing everything correct to try to bring back the 6 leaders in front. We go look at the other teams though. Nobody's really doing any work back there trying to help Movistar. They're basically one guy on the front trying to chase 4 guys going full gas late here at the Classica. As we come across the finish line, we'll see the 6 leaders up front. They got about a gap of about a minute on the Peloton behind, and then finally Trek Segafredo start working. Guys, already 20 kilometers, 20K have gone by since the top of the summit where Remco Evenepoel dislodged and dropped everybody except for his 3 breakaway companions and the 2 sitting on. And it took all the way of about 20 kilometers before Trek Segafredo with 3 guys in this group decided to start pulling. Okay, I'll give them a little bit of pat on the back because at least they started pulling. But when we start looking at the other guys sitting in this group as they cross the finish line for the first passage, look at the numbers from UAE Team Emirates. 3 riders in this front group. George Bennett's in this group, Juan Ayuso's in this front group, and Mark Hershey. You got 3 guys and you don't put anybody on the front? Man, you guys gotta be knuckleheads. Now you start looking at EF Education. They got Alberto Bettiol up there in the front. And when the attacks were happening coming off that descent before the finish line, we look at Palace. Palace was covering the attacks and neutralizing them so that they couldn't get away and have any chance of bridging up to that group. He's a knucklehead too. What are you guys doing? Ben Healy's in there, Palace is in there, and you got your worst climber on EF Education up the road with Remco Evenepoel, who won this race last year, going solo from 45 kilometers out. Alberto Bettiol just does not have this on his resume and shouldn't be working with Pello Bilbao, certainly shouldn't be working with Alexander Vlasov. And to think that you would even pull through with a Remco Evenepoel, you got to be the biggest knucklehead in this whole race, Alberto Bettiol. And Palace back there slowing everything down for Alberto Bettiol to try to win the stage. That's not going to help anything either, unless, of course, you want the gap to be so big that when Alberto Bettiol gets dropped, he might be able to hold off what's left of the Peloton. But otherwise, it's never going to happen. Now, we'll go back up to the front. We're going to start the penultimate climb here at the Classica, and we see Remco Evenepoel's riding hard on the front. We see Nathan Van Hooydonk come off the back early in this climb. Then we're going to see Bardet come off the back. Okay, guys, even Jumbo-Visma's Nathan Van Hooydonk, you're a bit of a knucklehead too, because as soon as you got caught going over the top of the climb, going down that descent, you should have went back to the group and started pulling with Movistar, Trek Segafredo, UAE Team Emirates, and Bardet. If your legs aren't good, I can't tell from sitting on the Chesterfield, but you would know because you are on the bike at this moment. If you knew for sure your legs were no good, but before you hit this penultimate climb, as Remco Evenepoel came up to you on the climb before, you should have dropped off and went back because you had your teammate Kevin Vermarke in there, and you could have been pulling on the front with UAE Team Emirates, EF Education, Jumbo-Visma's Nathan Van Hooydonk could have went back there and started pulling. Movistar still pulling on the front, and Trek Segafredo did get on the front eventually sooner than all the other teams except for Movistar, so you could have multiple numbers chasing these guys. Instead, we're going into the penultimate climb. Like I said, Nathan Van Hooydonk, got no benefit out of him going back and helping. Bardet's getting dropped, no benefit out of him. And then a kilometer later, after 2 guys who've been in the break all day long dropped early in that climb, 1K later, guess who gets dropped? You know it. It's Alberto Bettiol, EF Education, getting popped with Remco Evenepoel on the front driving it. Didn't need a crystal ball to see this one coming, but the EF Education riders going out the back. So now we look at the front. 3 riders at the front of the Classica San Sebastian right now with Remco Evenepoel driving it, Pello Bilbao taking pulls, and Vlasov is up front too, always pulling. So 3 guys holding off the Peloton. What happened in the Peloton back there? Well, I told you, AG2R had 3 riders in the front group when they went across the finish line. Never put a rider on the front of the Peloton. Now we're hitting the penultimate climb. Felix Gall, you're a big knucklehead, maybe as big as Alberto Bettiol, if not as big, really close to that, because when you're attacking coming up this penultimate climb, it makes no sense. There's no way you're going to bridge 1 minute and 15 seconds up to the 3 leaders with Remco Evenepoel blowing everything up. Now we see AG2R's Felix Gall. He's got some company with Thies Benoot. Thies Benoot's going to blow up, lose the wheel of AG2R's Felix up there, and Felix is going solo for a bit. And then we see Mikel Landa bridge up. That's Bahrain victorious. Remember, it's Pello Bilbao in this front group. I'm okay if Mikel Landa wants to work with one other guy to get up to the front group. But does he need to do the most of the work? Not really, but he can still work up here in this front group and make me happy. Only problem is they're going over to Summit now with just under 40 kilometers to go. And we see the 3 leaders are going to go over with about a minute and 25-second gap on the 2 chasers behind of Mikel Landa and Felix Gall that have no chance of catching them, but they got about a 10-second gap on the peloton of about 15 behind. We see the peloton from behind is getting pulled along by Nathan Van Hooydonk. Nathan Van Hooydonk, you'd say, wow, see, Chris, this made a lot of sense to save him up this climb. It didn't make any sense because one tired legs of Nathan Van Hooydonk's not going to bring back 3 guys going up the road being led by Remco Evenepoel, Pello Bilbao, and Vlasov. So Nathan Van Hooydonk, this was a bad tactic. You should have dropped earlier, and it should have been 10, 15 guys at least pulling, trying to bring back Remco Evenepoel's group that had 25 kilometers between when the cameras came on at 70 kilometers to go until the start of this climb with about 40K, and now they're at the summit. Nathan Van Hooydonk's pulling. He's going to bring back the group of 5 that's in front of him that was being led by Felix Gall and Mikel Landa just as they hit the descent. But guess what's going to happen now? 2 guys are going to start pulling. Nathan Van Hooydonk's going to start pulling, and all of a sudden the light bulb for UAE Team Emirates, George Bennett, he's going to get on the front too. So you got 2 guys, one's been in the break all day long, and one George Bennett trying to pull 3 guys of top quality being led by Remco Evenepoel. Now, do you know they're not going to catch? We see the gap goes up to about 2.5 minutes, and the peloton of GC guys back there that should have been working to try to win today's race, nobody's getting on the front at all. It's being led by Nathan Van Hooydonk. We're coming into the last and final climb. It's going to start with about 10 kilometers to go, and it's only 2K long, but it's got 19% sections. It's over 10% average, and the crowds are huge when you start getting up to the summit. Climb starts proper. We see Remco Evenepoel on the front, and Pello Bilbao looks like he's suffering and open up a little bit of a gap. The Bahrain victorious rider will dig deep. He'll pull back up to Vlasov's wheel. Then with about 600 meters to go, Vlasov starts opening up the gap. So Pello Bilbao knows to come around the Bora Hansgrohe rider. And then we see Vlasov as his head's dropping down. Bam! He's getting dropped out of the back from the pace from Remco Evenepoel. Now they're going through the crowds here, and the Basque fans are fun to be racing with because they're in close tight here to Remco Evenepoel and Pello Bilbao. They'll summit with those 2 riders, and we'll see Remco Evenepoel look down, put it in the big chain ring, and as he's putting it in the big chain ring, Pello Bilbao's like, I'll take a pull right now. I got first or second here, and I'm probably the fastest sprinter between the 2 of us. Pello Bilbao does a hard pull. We get into 5 kilometers to go through the right turn. I'm only pointing this one out because they've had a lot of technical difficulties and crashes in years past here at the Basque Country coming down into this right turn, but both riders make it through cleanly. They go through the next left cleanly with Remco Evenepoel and Pello Bilbao drilling it with 3K to go. The climb's done. They start heading in the coast with about 2.5 kilometers to go. 1K to go. We see it's Remco Evenepoel on the front pulling Pello Bilbao. He'll pull into about 600 meters to go, and then he'll move over to the side. Bahrain victorious Pello Bilbao will come through, and he'll keep looking over his shoulder the whole time there to see what Remco Evenepoel's doing. They'll come through the final left turn at about 300 meters, 200 meters to go. Pello Bilbao still looking right over his shoulder. 175, he sees Remco Evenepoel start his sprint, and the Bahrain victorious starts his sprint too. They'll go up to about 100 meters to go side by side, but when we look, pseudo quick steps, Remco Evenepoel has turned himself into a fast finisher here in 2023. If I take you all the way back to Catalonia, remember that uphill finish on stage 1 when he was going head-to-head with Primoz Roglic from Jumbo-Visma. Now we know that Remco Evenepoel has some speed because with 75 meters to go, he's got the front over Pello Bilbao. 50 meters to go, he knows he's going to win. 25, he starts easing up on the pedals. 15, he's coasting across the line with both arms in the air as he crosses the line, letting out a roar, knowing he's got 3 victories here at the Classica San Sebastian to tie the record. Pello Bilbao gets second. Then what happened to Vlasov? Well, like I said, he got popped with about 600 meters to go. He'll finish third to round out the podium here at the Classica. And then what was happening with the group of back there in the peloton? Well, we see it's Palace from EF Education that dislodged all of his company, and he comes into the flat section here, will ride in solo to get 4th on the stage. It was an exciting finish when you look at Remco Evenepoel and the battle between him and Pello Bilbao. Because honestly, when I was sitting on the Chesterfield, I was like, well, Pello Bilbao is pretty fast. We already know he won a stage at the Tour de France this year in 2023. And he has a lot of speed at the finish. When you look at Remco Evenepoel's speed, though, we got to start believing the Belgium national road champion and the current road world champion wearing the rainbow jersey, he's found more speed here in 2023. So maybe we got to start bumping up what he's capable of doing in the finishes when we're talking about the speed in his legs. We see him get up on the podium, top spot there with his chapela on, holding up the 3 fingers there because we know, like I already told you, he's won 3 here at the Classica. So he's tied with the record, and the kid, 23 years of age, he has plenty of time to break the record too in future Classica San Sebastian races. Now, when we start looking forward to the Tour of Spain, well, we got one race before that. It's called the Road World Championships. And Remco Evenepoel said in his interview afterwards that he liked how the second part of the season has started here at the Classic of San Sebastian. Winning here will, of course, give him some motivation and good incentive when he goes into the Road World Championships. And then we're talking about the Vuelta a España starting in a few weeks. So make sure you guys like and subscribe because there's knuckleheads at every race. We know that. EF Education's Alberto Bettiol. Paulus back there, you're a knucklehead too. Your teammate Ben Healy sitting back there, you're a knucklehead. Allowing Alberto Bettiol to go up the front instead of bringing him back to start pulling. That's a ridiculous tactics. And AG2R Felix Gall, come on, man. You had 3 guys in the group. You had 25, 30 kilometers to have 2 of your guys pulling as hard as they can with Movistar, Trek, Segafredo, UAE team members who are knucklehead. You guys started pulling, could have made this race a whole lot more exciting and maybe seen if Remco Evenepoel was put under any kind of pressure if the group back there really was organized the way they should have been here at the Classica. Either way, like and subscribe. We got more bike races and more Beyond the Coverage coming. So I'll see you on the next edition real soon.